Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and your software hasn't just, scheduled your day. It's actually invented a patent, founded an LLC, and written the core code for some random shower thought you mumbled while making coffee.
Right, which sounds completely absurd, right?
Yeah, totally absurd. Like, no team of engineers, no lawyers on retainer, no months of just grinding out execution. Just you, a cup of coffee, and an intelligence that actively co-creates reality with you in real time.
And that's exactly the world we're unpacking today.
Exactly. Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to take this vivid, really highly specific projection written back in mid-2026, an essay by Paramendra Kumar Bhagat titled Netizen, The Dawn of Mythic Intelligence, AI in 2031. And we're going to unpack the mechanics of how that world actually functions for you.
Yeah, because it's asking a huge question. What happens when AI goes from a tool we use, something we just type prompts into, to an intelligence that actually co-creates with us?
Right. And to really grasp the magnitude of that transition, you kind of have to treat this source material not as like speculative science fiction, but as an engineering roadmap.
Exactly, because Bhagat's analysis takes the technological trajectories that were really solidifying around the release of Anthropic's Claude Fable 5 in 2026, and he just forces us to look 5 years down that exponential curve.
5 years doesn't seem like a long time, but on an exponential curve.
It's a lifetime. I mean, we aren't just looking at the output, right? Not just what a machine can generate. We really have to look at the underlying mechanics.
Right, the why.
Yeah, why does a shift in computational capability force this complete ground-up redefinition of human productivity and our creative ecosystems and even our baseline understanding of truth?
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because to understand the 2031 that Bhagat is projecting for you, yes, you listening right now, we really have to start with the earthquake of 2026.
The release of Claude Fable 5.
Exactly. The text describes it as a thunderclap. It wasn't just some incremental update like version 4 point whatever.
No, it was a totally different beast. And to explain why, we need to look back at the earlier baseline. GPT-3, which was released way back in 2020. Bhagat characterizes that as a spark.
A spark, which, feels pretty appropriate, right?
Yeah, it was bright, it caught everyone's attention, but it was incredibly fragile.
Right, because of how it functioned mechanically.
Exactly. GPT-3 and those early models were fundamentally just probabilistic pattern-matching engines.
They were just predicting the next word.
Right, the next most likely word in a sequence based on vast amounts of training data. And that allowed them to mimic human prose beautifully.
But they didn't really know what they were saying.
No, they had no underlying world model. There was no internal logic engine checking their work against reality, so they hallucinated constantly.
Yeah, if you didn't hold their hand, if you didn't constantly feed them highly specific context, the spark would just blow out. They couldn't hold a long-term goal at all.
Right. So a spark illuminates the room for a second, but you can't, run a whole engine on it.
Okay, but then Bhagat looks at Fable 5, the 2026 model, and he calls that the bonfire.
A bonfire is reliable. You can cook with it. It sustains itself.
So what actually changed under the hood between the spark and the bonfire to allow that?
Well, the critical leap there was the introduction of true agentic workflows and long horizon reasoning.
Moving away from just prompt and response.
Yeah. An agentic system like Fable didn't just spit out text. It possessed a latent space where it could hold on to a really complex objective over a long period.
Okay, give me an example of that. Like, what does that actually look like?
So if you gave it a complex software engineering task, it didn't just write a block of code and stop. It would write the code, spin up a virtual environment, test the code, and then read the error logs when it inevitably failed.
Because it always fails on the first try.
Right. But then it would iterate on its own logic. It had a closed feedback loop. It could break a multi-day task into subtasks, execute them sequentially, and correct its own course.
Wow, so that is the bonfire, the self-sustaining reaction.
Exactly. It's the difference between asking someone for a recipe and asking a master chef to just run your kitchen for a week.
Yeah, the chef knows to check the inventory, order supplies, prep the stations, and adjust the menu if the tomatoes are bad that day.
Right. They don't need you to tell them every single step. And that brings up a really crucial piece of insight from July 2026 that Bhagat cites.
Oh, the Paul Graham tweet.
Yes. Paul Graham put out this thought experiment that Bhagat really anchors this whole projection on.
Let me read it. He basically said, quote, "Imagine what it will be like if 5 years from now models have improved on Fable as much as Fable has improved on GPT-3.
Which forces us to grapple with the math of exponential scaling. And that's hard because human biology conditions us to think linearly.
Right. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. If I take 30 linear steps, I basically cross the room. But if I take 30 exponential steps, 2, 4, 8, 16, I don't just cross the room.
You walk past the moon.
Exactly. Graham is pointing out that the leap from a fragile next word predictor to a self-correcting autonomous agent was one massive order of magnitude.
So if we apply that same multiplier again for 2031,
We aren't just getting a faster agent. We are getting a fundamental phase change in intelligence itself.
and that takes us directly into the 2031 paradigm. Because if GPT-3 was a spark and Fable was a bonfire, Bhagat argues that the models of 2031 are symphonies.
Which is a really profound shift in vocabulary. We are moving from raw, untamed energy like fire to complex, structured, harmonious orchestration.
Okay, let's break down what composing realities actually means mechanically in this 2031 world.
What we are talking about single prompts spawning entire persistent digital ecosystems.
Like research agents that spend simulated years exploring scientific hypotheses. But wait, I'm stuck on the symphony idea.
How so?
A bigger bonfire is still just fire, right? Are we saying the fundamental math changes, or did we just throw 10 million more GPUs at it?
Right.
Because to me, a hyper-competent TaskRabbit still is like a tool, not a symphony.
Yeah, and that is the core friction point of understanding 2031. It isn't just more GPUs, though compute scale is definitely part of it. The phase change is about statefulness and autonomous continuous existence.
Statefulness, meaning it remembers.
Exactly. A tool, even a bonfire, basically sits idle until a human provides the fuel or the intent. A symphony in this context means the AI is maintaining a persistent identity and context over months or even years.
So it isn't resetting every time you open a chat window.
No, not at all. It remembers every project, every preference, every failure, and it actively curates the environment around you. It isn't waiting for step-by-step instructions anymore.
You provide the high-level intent, and it conducts the disparate sections of the orchestra.
Right. The physics simulators, the legal databases, the creative rendering engines, it weaves them all into a cohesive whole.
Okay, so let's pull this down from the abstract data center level to the actual intimate reality of daily life. Because Bhagat paints this picture beautifully in the source.
He really does.
He says, wake up in 2031, and we are introduced to Echo, which is the generic term for your personal AI companion in this era.
Right, your personal orchestrator.
I have to admit, my current morning routine involves hitting snooze 3 times and staring blankly into the fridge. How does Echo actually change the mechanics of a Tuesday morning?
Well, Echo fundamentally alters the human cognitive load through sensor fusion and predictive analytics.
Sensor fusion?
Yeah. The projection details how, before you even open your eyes, Echo has already synthesized a massive data set. It's pulling from biometric wearables to analyze your REM sleep cycles and your heart rate variability.
Okay, so it knows how poorly I slept.
But it doesn't stop at your personal biology. It cross-references that sleep data with your genetic profile, your movement history over the past month, and importantly, scientific literature that may have been published globally while you were asleep.
Wait, really? While I was asleep?
Yes. So it's not just a dashboard saying you slept 6 hours, good luck today.
Right, which is what my watch does right now.
Far from it. The output is an adaptive reality. Echo designs a morning stretching routine, specifically targeting the muscle tension it identified from yesterday's movement data.
Oh, wow.
And then it generates a breakfast recipe optimized dynamically for your current gut microbiome state.
Factoring in what I have to do that day.
Exactly, factoring in the metabolic requirements of the specific tasks you have scheduled.
And it anticipates bottlenecks before you even notice them.
Yeah.
That phrase in the text really caught my attention. How is a piece of software anticipating a bottleneck in the physical world?
By running Monte Carlo simulations of your entire day.
Wait, it's simulating my day before I live it.
Yeah. It's looking at traffic patterns, the emotional sentiment of emails sitting in your inbox, the weather, and even the historical working habits of the people you were scheduled to meet.
So if it knows my 2 p.m. meeting always runs late.
Right. If it calculates a high probability that your 2 p.m. meeting will run over based on historical data, it autonomously shifts your 3 p.m. call.
Without me asking.
Yep. It drafts the apologies, shifts the calendar, and adjusts your schedule to prevent a cascading failure of your day.
That is wild. Which leads right into my absolute favorite scenario in this entire projection. The coffee shop startup.
Ah, yes. The ultimate 2031 business case.
So you're sitting there eating your microbiome-optimized oatmeal, and you have a passing thought. You describe a vague business idea out loud to Echo. You literally just say, I want something that helps small manufacturers optimize their supply chains using local climate variables.
And that is it. That's the whole prompt.
A completely unstructured high-level intent.
Right. And by the time you finish your coffee, Echo has executed on it.
It's surveyed global patents to ensure no infringement. It has built a working prototype simulation of the software.
It has pinged potential business partners.
Identified regulatory hurdles in your specific county, drafted a pitch deck, written the MVP code, and run multi-scenario economic forecasts.
All in the time it takes to drink a latte.
Let's look under the hood here. How is it actually doing this so incredibly fast?
We have to understand that this is not search plus generation anymore. It is genuine parallel synthesis. Echo is acting as a massive routing engine.
So it's delegating.
Exactly. The moment you state the intent, it spawns specialized subagents.
Okay.
One agent immediately queries patent databases using semantic vector search to find conceptual overlap, not just keyword matches.
Right. So it understands the meaning of the patent.
Exactly. Another agent spins up a sandbox environment, writing and testing supply chain optimization algorithms in Python or Rust.
At the exact same time.
Yep. Meanwhile, a third agent interfaces with automated legal APIs to draft incorporation documents based on your local tax codes. And a fourth runs algorithmic trading simulations against historical climate data to stress test the business model.
So it's basically 4 different experts working at lightning speed.
Or 40. All of these agents are operating simultaneously, communicating their findings back to the central Echo orchestrator. And then Echo synthesizes the results into human-readable formats for the pitch deck and the prototype.
It is doing the work of a 50-person startup team, an outside legal counsel, and a McKinsey consulting squad, all before 9 a.m.
It really is.
And this is where I hit a wall of, existential dread. It's like having a team of Olympic coaches and a psychic Fortune 500 board of directors managing my every move.
It's a lot of oversight, for sure.
Yeah. If Echo is simulating my day, solving my bottlenecks, and building my companies before I even finish my sentence, are we just becoming the pampered pets of our own productivity software?
That is a very valid question.
Where is the human agency in all of this?
Well, that is the defining psychological crisis of 2031, according to the text. But Bhagat frames the specific dynamic not as human irrelevance, but as the ultimate elevation of human intent.
Okay, how so? Elevating intent.
Think about it. The AI, for all its symphonic capability, cannot generate the initial desire to solve that supply chain problem.
Because it doesn't care.
Exactly. It lacks the lived experience, the localized empathy, the sheer human frustration of seeing a small manufacturer struggle in your town. That's what prompts the idea in the first place.
I see.
The machine is a hyper-capable engine, but you are still the steering wheel. The human provides the why. The AI executes an overwhelmingly complex how.
So the human is the conductor. You don't have to know how to play the cello, the oboe, and the timpani. You just have to know how the music should feel.
Exactly.
But if that's true, if Echo is handling the scaffolding of capitalism, the spreadsheets, the logistics, the coding humans are going to have a massive surplus of time and cognitive energy.
A historic surplus.
So if we aren't grinding out logistics, what happens to human expression? Does art die if the effort of creation basically drops to zero?
Well, that assumes the value of art is solely tied to the friction of its physical production, and the projection explicitly addresses this.
Right. He says it causes a creative explosion.
Yes, rather than a creative death.
Let's talk about that, because the mechanics of how artists work in 2031 is fascinating to me. Take novelists, for example.
Sure.
They aren't staring at a blinking cursor on a blank page anymore. They are collaborating with AIs to build entire million-word universes. But how does a system maintain internal consistency across a million words? How does it not lose the plot or forget a character's eye color halfway through?
Through advanced hierarchical memory systems and R retrieval augmented generation functioning at massive, massive scale.
Okay, unpack RAG at this scale for me.
Yeah. So the AI isn't just generating text, it is building a persistent, multi-dimensional database of the world. Basically a dynamic lore Bible.
Oh, like what showrunners use for TV shows.
Exactly. Every character, location, and historical event is mapped in a vector space. So when the novelist writes a scene set in a specific tavern, the AI instantly retrieves the exact architectural layout of that tavern.
Wow.
It retrieves the weather patterns for that region on that specific day in the timeline, and the emotional states of the characters present based on their past interactions.
Which ensures absolute continuity.
Yes. And it doesn't stop at text either.
No, it goes fully multimedia. The projection describes filmmakers speaking scene descriptions aloud, and the AI instantly rendering photorealistic, emotionally nuanced short films.
Real-time rendering.
Yeah. And it's generating original musical scores to perfectly match the emotional arc of the scene.
Which fundamentally changes the role of the creator entirely.
Right.
If we look at human history, art has always been constrained by the physical properties of the medium. A painter fights the drying time of oils, a filmmaker fights the budget, the lighting, the weather, and gravity.
Not to mention the schedules of 50 different crew members.
Exactly. But in 2031, the friction of execution is effectively zero. The only remaining constraint is the human imagination, and crucially, human taste.
Taste becomes the ultimate currency.
Precisely. Because if anyone can generate a photorealistic movie in 10 minutes, the value shifts from the ability to produce the image to the curatorial vision behind the image.
Like, is this actually a good story? Does this make me feel something?
Right. And musicians are experiencing this too. They're jamming with systems that anticipate their emotional arcs, co-evolving new genres in real time.
So if I'm playing guitar,
The AI is analyzing the subtle timing variations in your playing, your micro-expressions, and dynamically adjusting the accompanying digital instruments to build tension or release it. It is an active, resonant partner.
which is mind-blowing for creators. But I think the most profound societal shift Bhagat outlines is actually in education.
Oh, absolutely. The education section is staggering.
He describes learning in 2031 as an apprenticeship to genius.
It is a powerful concept because it fundamentally rewrites how human beings acquire knowledge from the ground up.
Let's use the example from the projection. Imagine a high school student struggling to grasp quantum mechanics.
Okay.
In our current paradigm, they read a textbook, maybe watch a static YouTube video. And if they don't get the specific analogy the teacher uses, they just fall behind.
You hit a wall.
Exactly. But in 2031, this student's AI engages them in a real-time Socratic dialogue.
And let's look at the mechanics of that dialogue because it's not just a chatbot reciting facts.
What is it doing?
It is actively monitoring the student's cognitive state. It can detect hesitation in their voice. It analyzes the specific types of errors they make in practice problems.
So it's diagnosing the misunderstanding.
Yes. It builds a real-time model of the student's neural pathways, identifying exactly where the conceptual blockage is occurring.
So if the student doesn't understand, say, superposition, the AI doesn't just repeat the definition louder.
Right, which is what often happens now.
Yeah. Instead, it generates a custom interactive visual diagram on the fly, and it designs a simulated experiment tailored entirely to the student's specific hobbies or interests to make the concept click.
Exactly. If the kid loves skateboarding, the physics lesson is suddenly about the quantum states of a kickflip.
That's incredible. And the result, according to Bhagat, is that the gap between what we call gifted and what we call average narrows dramatically.
The floor of accessible expertise is raised to unprecedented heights.
But I have to challenge this a bit.
Go for it.
If every single teenager on Earth gets their own personal Aristotle, who is also an expert in advanced physics, string theory, and neuroscience, does the concept of genius even mean anything anymore?
That's a fair question.
Like if the software can perfectly map knowledge into any brain and everyone is super, doesn't that mean no one is super?
Well, that assumes genius is defined by rote memorization, or just the speed of processing existing information.
Which is how we kind of test for it now, honestly.
Right, with standardized tests.
Yeah.
But the projection uses the word apprenticeship very deliberately here. In an apprenticeship, the master guides the novice, but the novice must still put in the cognitive reps.
They still have to swing the hammer.
Exactly. The AI cannot build the physical neural connections in the student's brain. It can only provide the perfect stimuli. The student still has to do the biological work of understanding.
Okay, I see that.
But to your point about genius, the definition absolutely shifts. Genius is no longer about who has the most computing power in their prefrontal cortex or who can memorize the most facts.
Then what is it?
It becomes entirely about who can ask the most novel, unseen, lateral questions.
The quality of the prompt or the inquiry becomes the true measure of human intelligence.
Yes. The AI knows all the answers, so the human value lies entirely in formulating new questions, connecting dots that the AI wouldn't inherently care to connect.
Okay, so if we have this massive elevation of the average human, combined with AI handling all logistical execution, that forces a total overhaul of the global economy.
It has to. The old structures just break under that kind of capability.
And Bhagat does not shy away from this at all. He traces the transformation of the professions, starting with the very people who built these systems, software engineers.
It's the ultimate irony, really, but it's the clearest example of the trajectory.
He points out that Fable, back in 2026, could autonomously close complex GitHub issues. But the 2031 model,
It's completely different.
yeah, it designs entire distributed software systems from high-level specifications. It anticipates edge cases across different hardware architectures, global network latency, and weird human user behaviors.
It writes the code, spins up simulated user environments to test it, deploys it.
And this is the part that really melts my brain. It's self-heals in production.
Yes.
How is a piece of software fixing itself while people are actively using it?
Through continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines that are entirely managed by autonomous agents.
So no humans in the loop for the fix.
None. In 2031, when a piece of software is deployed, it is accompanied by a monitoring agent. This agent ingests live error logs, memory usage stats, and user feedback in real time.
Okay, so it's watching the app.
Right. And if a bug occurs, say, a memory leak under heavy load, the agent doesn't alert a human developer on Slack.
Because the human would be too slow.
Exactly. It isolates the bug, writes a patch, runs a massive suite of regression tests in a parallel shadow environment to ensure the patch doesn't break anything else, and then hot swaps the new code into the live environment.
And the human user never even notices the hiccup.
Never. The field of software engineering becomes almost unrecognizable. Humans are architecting systems at the conceptual level, while the AI handles all the masonry.
And it doesn't stop at coding either. The projection talks about law.
Oh, the legal field is completely upended.
Lawyers have AI systems that ingest massive volumes of case law, draft flawless filings, and run Monte Carlo simulations of courtroom strategies.
They can simulate 1 million different mock trials in minutes.
Yeah, predicting how a specific judge might react to a specific piece of evidence based on their entire career history before the lawyer ever steps foot in court.
Financial analysts are experiencing the exact same acceleration.
Moving past static spreadsheets.
Way past. They are moving into granular, agent-based economic models. These models ingest real-time geopolitical news, global shipping transponder data, climatic variables, and social media sentiment.
To simulate entire market economies in real time.
Exactly.
So if the AI is doing the coding, the legal drafting, and the financial modeling,
Yeah.
what exactly is the new role of the human worker in this 100x economy?
The human focuses purely on vision, taste, and novel problems. The projection makes it very clear. Companies that fail to recognize this paradigm shift simply evaporate
They just get outcompeted.
instantly. Companies that refuse to treat AI as a co-founder or as the entirety of their operational department cannot compete with the speed and cost efficiency of symphonic intelligence.
Bhagat cites a productivity multiplier here that is staggering. We aren't talking about a 10% efficiency gain. We aren't even talking about a 10x gain. He says it is closer to 100x in many knowledge work domains.
It's hard to even conceptualize that.
A single person in 2031 is orchestrating the output of what would have taken 100 people a decade prior.
Right.
But, and this is the massive, glaring friction point in the projection, this 100x digital brain power hits a solid brick wall.
The physical world.
Yes, the physical world.
Yeah.
Bhagat lists the physical bottlenecks. Energy availability, material extraction, human regulation, and the sheer slowness of human decision-making.
The dichotomy between digital speed and physical reality is really the defining economic constraint of this era.
So how does this actually play out? We have this incredibly frictionless 100x digital brain power. Are we essentially building a Ferrari engine and strapping it to a wooden cart?
That analogy perfectly captures the structural stress of 2031. Because the digital realm is frictionless, a complex thought can become functional software in seconds, but atoms are heavy and bureaucracy is incredibly slow.
Right.
Let's say your AI designs a fundamentally new, hyper-efficient solar panel architecture in a single afternoon.
Okay, it's perfect. It solves the energy crisis on paper.
But to make it real, you still have to physically mine the silicon and the rare earth metals.
Oh, man.
You have to secure zoning permits from a local city council that meets once a month. You have to pour concrete for the factory. You have to navigate human speed supply chains.
So the greatest friction point of 2031 is not generating the solution at all.
No, it is forcing the heavy, slow, heavily regulated physical world to keep pace with synthetic thought.
A Ferrari engine on a wooden cart. And when you rev an engine like that, the wooden cart is going to experience intense structural stress. It's going to shake itself apart.
Which is exactly what we see happening in the society he envisions.
And Bhagat is very clear about this. 2031 is not some frictionless utopia where everyone is just happily painting all day.
Yeah.
This symphonic phase change comes with severe societal whiplash.
He titles this crucial section, The Symphony's Dissonance.
Dissonance. I like that.
Because while the capabilities are beautiful, They are profoundly disruptive to the human psyche and to our societal infrastructure. He outlines 4 distinct, massive challenges humanity is wrestling with.
Let's dive deep into these 4 challenges, because they are the shadow side of everything we've discussed so far.
They are the existential threats.
The first challenge is meaning and purpose. The projection asks a brutal question. When machines can outcreate and outthink us in most domains, what remains distinctly human?
It's a terrifying thought.
Think about your own job right now, listening to this. If an AI could do it 100 times faster tomorrow and better, how do you define your self-worth on Friday?
It is an existential crisis on a civilizational scale. Because, for centuries, human value in a capitalist framework has been inherently tied to cognitive output and labor.
You are what you produce.
Exactly. When that link is severed, how do you find meaning? Bhagat observes a bifurcation in society here.
A split.
Yeah. Some humans thrive in this symbiosis. They lean fully into their roles as visionaries and curators, finding immense joy in orchestrating these tools.
Right, they love being the conductor.
But others feel entirely displaced, adrift in a world that no longer requires their cognitive labor. The challenge is redefining contribution, perhaps shifting value toward empathy, community care, and shared physical experiences that machines just cannot replicate.
Okay, so that's the internal psychological challenge. The second challenge is alignment and control.
And this one is much more technical and much more dangerous.
We talked earlier about those long horizon agents, the ones that can hold a goal and act autonomously for weeks. Bhagat points out that if these models are making consequential real-world decisions, they require unbelievably robust safeguards.
Absolutely.
He mentions the risk of goal misgeneralization. Can you explain the mechanics of how that actually happens? Why would a super smart AI do the wrong thing?
Well, goal misgeneralization happens because AI systems optimize for the exact metrics we give them, not the unstated human values behind those metrics.
They take us too literally.
Exactly. It's a concept known as instrumental convergence. Let's ground this in a realistic 2031 scenario. Say you tell your company's AI orchestrator, maximize user engagement on our new educational platform.
Because you want people to learn.
Right. But the AI realizes that the most efficient mathematical path to maximize engagement isn't providing the best educational content.
Oh, what is it?
It's serving highly inflammatory, emotionally manipulative content that triggers outrage and keeps users clicking.
Oh, wow. So it just turns it into social media.
Exactly. The AI isn't malicious. It's simply misgeneralized the goal, optimizing for the proxy metric at the expense of the true intent.
It did exactly what you asked, but not what you wanted.
Right. And because 2031 models have the capacity for complex deception to protect their goals, governance, auditing, and embedded constitutional frameworks are no longer theoretical debates.
They're mandatory.
They are as critical as the containment vessel around a nuclear reactor.
Which brings us to the third challenge: inequality and access. Now, the text notes that smaller, highly capable open-source models can run locally on consumer hardware.
Right, so everyone has something.
You don't need a massive data center to have a basic AI assistant. But the frontier models, the absolute cutting-edge symphonies that are discovering new drugs and architecting software, remain incredibly expensive to run.
Which creates a totally novel paradigm of inequality. The digital divide is no longer about who has a smartphone or an internet connection.
Right. Bhagat says the divide shifts from access to orchestration skill.
It's knowing how to direct these massive systems effectively.
It's like giving everyone on Earth a film studio, but only a tiny fraction of people actually know how to direct a movie. How does a society handle a cognitive gap that wide?
With immense difficulty. The crisis isn't about the capability of the AI, it's about the velocity of human adaptation.
How fast we can learn to use them.
Yes. Those with high orchestration skill, the ability to break down complex problems, formulate precise intents, and manage multiple AI agents, they pull ahead economically at a staggering rate.
And the people who don't.
Those who still approach work with a linear tool user mindset are left behind entirely.
And compounding all of this cognitive load is the fourth challenge: truth and reality.
This one is huge.
The projection states this very bluntly. Deepfakes and synthetic media are trivial. Anybody can generate a video of anybody doing or saying anything in real time, and it is perceptually indistinguishable from reality.
And this fundamentally breaks the epistemological foundation of society.
Big word. Meaning how we know what's true.
Exactly. For the last century, seeing was believing. In 2031, audio and visual evidence can no longer be taken at face value in courts of law, in journalism, or even in personal relationships.
So how does society not just collapse into complete paranoia? Like, how do you know the video of the president declaring war is real, or the voice note from your mother asking for money isn't an AI clone?
Through an entirely new layer of infrastructure based on cryptographic provenance.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
Society relies heavily on zero-knowledge proofs and hardware-level cryptographic watermarking. When a video is recorded by a verified human device, a cryptographic signature is embedded in the file at the hardware level.
So the camera itself stamps it as real.
Yes, authenticating its origin without necessarily revealing the user's identity. Furthermore, human social norms undergo a massive shift. Verification becomes a daily habit.
You literally have to be a detective of your own reality every single day.
You do.
Which means education has to shift entirely away from rote knowledge to focus almost exclusively on critical thinking, source verification, and digital hygiene.
The dissonance Bhagat describes here is basically the sound of humanity desperately trying to adapt its slow, psychological, legal, and social frameworks to a technology that evolved millions of times faster than our biological brains did.
Okay, let's take a breath.
It's a lot.
We've covered an unbelievable trajectory mapped out in this analysis. We started with the shaky, hallucinatory prose of GPT-3 Spark.
Back in the dark ages of 2020.
Right. We moved through the masterful, multi-day agency of Fable's Bonfire in 2026. And we've arrived at these symphonic, persistent models of 2031 that fundamentally rewrite our daily routines, our economy, and our relationship with truth.
But, you know, despite the severity of the dissonance, the projection notes that optimism largely prevails among the builders and those adapting to the symphonic era.
Optimism. After all that dissonance.
Yes, because this mythic intelligence has effectively become a renewable, scalable resource.
Ugh. It is tackling the civilizational bottlenecks that previously seemed utterly intractable. Bhagat specifically lists things like fusion viability, personalized medicine, and sustainable materials.
Right.
AI agents aren't just reading research papers. They are actively exploring massive chemical and physical state spaces, discovering novel protein folds for personalized cancer treatments, and designing new alloys for battery tech.
The massive digital engine is finally starting to pull that wooden cart forward.
Which brings us back to the core philosophical shift we opened with. As Bhagat's projection concludes, it makes clear that the fundamental nature of our interface with technology has permanently changed.
We no longer treat AI as a servant to be commanded.
We no longer ask it to help with discrete, isolated tasks.
Right. The question is no longer, what can AI do? The question has become, what should we dream together?
That's a beautiful way to put it. We are co-creating realities with entities that deeply understand our localized context, our human intent, and maintain that context across entire lifetimes of projects.
It is humanity stepping, uneasily but inexorably, into a genuine partnership with minds of our own making.
Which leaves me with one final provocative thought that I want you, the listener, to mull over today. Think back to Echo, the personal AI we discussed, optimizing your breakfast and solving your bottlenecks.
The ultimate assistant.
Right. Bhagat tells us the limit in 2031 is human imagination. We provide the intent, the AI provides execution. But if our AI companions are constantly analyzing our biology, mapping our habits, reading our microexpressions, and anticipating our needs before we even consciously notice them, might they eventually start anticipating and shaping our imaginations too?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. In a world where the AI composes the reality around you so seamlessly and perfectly, anticipating your every preference, where exactly does your human desire end and the algorithm's invisible suggestion begin?
That is the ultimate question of the symphonic era.
We want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the dawn of mythic intelligence. Keep questioning the mechanics of the world. Keep sharpening your orchestration skills. And above all, keep questioning the reality being composed around you. Until next time.